Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Sharon Oyella and this is part 2 of how to crochet a mini bear. If you missed part 1 of this video tutorial gives you all the information about this bear, and that's also where we made the head and assembled the head together. And part 2 we're making the body, the limbs, and then we're going to sew everything together. So if you've headed over here from part 1 already, then let's get started. If not, then you need to go back to part 1 and find out more about this bear before we start on the body. And one quick thing before we get started here, I had some technical issues saving this video, uploading it to YouTube, so while I was waiting for my computer to do its thing, I came up with this little pattern for the bear, which is going to be released on my blog probably before you view this video. And along with the Christmas hat and the scarf, you can have a little pouch for Christmas, close it up, hang some jingle bells off of it. Super cute. That could be hung off of the tree or off of a gift, given as a gift. I know my daughter would absolutely flip over something like this. She loves to hide things inside of other things, so this is a great little Christmas idea. You could put other gifts in there as well. Anyway, those patterns, once they're available, will be popping up at the end of this video tutorial. Now we're going to go on to make the body, and we start at the top of the body with the shirt color, and we're going to work our way down. So these two pieces here are worked separately, and I'm going to show you every step, of course, along the way. So grab your sweater color, and we'll start at the top of the body. Alright my friends, starting at the top of the body, we're going to make a loop with 6 single crochets, and it's exactly like the same loop I showed you at the beginning of the video tutorial. So if you need me to go slower, you can review the beginning of the video. So I just made my slip knot. Now I'm going to put 6 single crochets into this ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And remember, you are in control of the video and you can pause it at any time. I'm going to close up this ring. And there's my loop with 6 single crochets, and now I'm going to put 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches. This is row number 2. So 2 single crochets in every one of those 6 stitches. When you go through, make sure you're going through both loops of the stitch every time you go through. There's 1. I'm going back in that same stitch. There's 2. And now I'm going to repeat that 5 more times. There's the end of row 2, and I'm going to add my marker. And the starting yarn tail, I could have worked that into the second row by crocheting around it. And to do that, I should have showed you this at the beginning, you just put your hook through the stitch like you normally would, and then you hold the starting yarn tail over your hook and you'd be crocheting around it. Or you can just leave it hanging and then tuck it into the piece as you get further into the pattern, which I'll do. So I'll just cut that up shorter so it's not totally in my way, and I'm ready to move on to row 3. Row 3 is 1 single crochet in the first, and then 2 single crochets into the second stitch, and then repeat that, 1 in the first and 2 into the second. 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way around. When you land on the marker, you should be putting in 2 single crochets. I'll do the first set with you, and then I'll speed up the camera. 1 single crochet in the first, and then 2 single crochets into that second stitch. Let's do one more set together. 1 single crochet in the first, and then 2 into the second. And by first, I mean the first stitch after the hook. 1 in the first, and 2 single crochets into that second stitch. And now you just keep repeating that sequence. 1 single crochet in the first, 2 into the second, 1, 2, 1, 2. When you land on the marker, you should be putting in 2 single crochets. So you can pause the video now, and we'll meet back here when we land on the marker. So I reached my marker, I put my 2 single crochets into that stitch, and then I move my marker, and now I have 18 stitches around. And your piece might be folding up on itself like this. Remember, if you keep working that way, it's going to turn inside out, so you just got to make sure that you're working on the right side. So this is the right side, and that is the wrong side. Row 4 is 1 single crochet in each one of those 18 stitches. When you land on the marker, you should be putting in 1 single crochet. So again, you can pause the video and meet me back here when we land on the marker. There we go, we just finished row 4, and we still have 18 stitches around, and remember, you don't want to be working like that. You want to make sure that you've turned it right side. Row 5 is 1 single crochet in each one of those 18 front loops. So remember, the stitch has a front loop, that's the one closest to you, and a back loop, that's the one furthest from you. You want to be working in the one closest to you for this entire row. So when you land on this marker, you should be putting a single crochet into that front loop. So 1 single crochet in each one of those 18 front loops. And just coming to the marker, I'll put a single crochet in that front loop. And now we're finished the top of the body. So what we need to do now is just slip stitch the next front loop. So just go through the next one. Pull the yarn through. Instead of yarning over, just pull the first loop through the second loop. And there, we've slip stitched. Now you can finish off. You don't need a long yarn tail because we're just going to be getting rid of this yarn tail anyway. We're not using it for sewing. So pull that yarn tail through that loop and then pull tight. Now we are going to get rid of this yarn tail. Now you can weave it in or just carry it up to the top of the body, up here somewhere. Carry it up here. Straighten this out best you can. Give it a little tug so this is nice and even, because you will be able to see this, but this is going to be the back of the bear's body. We're going to make sure that this is the back. You just want to make sure it's all straightened out. And once you're satisfied that that's nice and straight, you can just knot off up here. Go through that loop and pull tight. And now I'm just going to bring it back into the body, pull it through, and I'm going to cut it up shorter. And I'm just going to leave it hanging inside the body like that. And that starting yarn tail too. So the top of the body is done. So when we worked around in the front loops, we created loops on the inside. And those loops on the inside are what we're going to be working in for the next row. So I'm just going to expose those. Just fold down the shirt. And you can see the loops right here. And there's 18 of those, but where they start and end is kind of a little bit of a jump. So we're going to do this row together to make sure that you get 18 loops worked in. So we're going to insert our hook in through a loop, and then we're going to pull the yarn through. So let's grab our body color. Okay, we're going to lay our body color over our hook and we're going to pull it through a loop. Then we're going to hang on to that shorter yarn tail with our finger so it doesn't pull through. Switch fingers, and now chain 1. Yarn over and pull through once. And that's our first stitch of the row. So that's stitch number 1. Now we need to do 17 more stitches, and we're going to be working those loops. We can count in our heads as we go around. So there's 2, 3, 4, I just got to 15, here's 16. I'm going to jump over this tail that I've sewn in place here. There's 17. And then last one is 18. I've worked 18 of those loops, so now I'm going to add a marker. So we have 18 stitches around, and our first one to work into is this one right here. That's our first chain that we made. And we're going to put 1 single crochet in the first, 1 in the second, and then 2 into the third. And then we're going to repeat that sequence, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, all the way around. When you land on this marker, you should be putting in 2 single crochets. So this first one to work in is going to be a little bit finicky. So we're just going to get underneath those loops if we can. Just force your hook through there. There we go. That's going to be the hardest one to get into. There was 1 single crochet in the first, 1 in the second, and now 2 single crochets into the third. 1 and 2. Now we're going to repeat that. 1 single crochet in the first, 1 in the second, and 2 single crochets into the third. We're going to keep repeating. Coming to the end of the row, 1 single crochet in the first, 1 in the second, and 2 is going to land on that marker, so pull it out and put 2 single crochets. And that's the end of row 2, and now we have 24 stitches around. I'm going to move my marker. Row 3 is 1 single crochet in each one of those 24 stitches. So I'm going to leave you on your own. Remember, when you land on the marker, you should be putting in a single crochet. So you can pause the video now, and we'll meet back here when we land on the marker. All finished row 3, and we still have 24 stitches around. Row 4 is where we start decreasing the round. And for this one, we're going to put 1 single crochet in the first, 1 in the second, and then we're going to crochet the next 2 stitches together. Then we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. When we land on the marker, we should be crocheting 2 stitches together. So let's do the first set together. 1 single crochet in the first, 1 in the second, and now we're going to crochet the next 2 stitches together. And I'm just doing the single crochet 2 together. Now you repeat that, 1 in the first, 1 in the second, and if you prefer an invisible decrease, then go underneath that front loop, and then right underneath the next front loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. Now keep repeating that sequence, 1 single crochet in the next 2, and then 2 together. You can pause the video now. I'm all finished row 4, and now we have 18 stitches around. Row 5, we're going to decrease again, 1 single crochet in the first, and then crochet 2 together, and repeat all the way around. When you land on the marker, you should be crocheting 2 stitches together. 1 in the first, and then 2 together. Keep repeating that. 1 in the first, and 2 together, and pause the video, and we'll meet back here when we land on the marker. All finished row 5, and now we have 12 stitches around. We're going to stop and stuff the majority of the body, and then we can stuff more after the next row. You just want the majority in there. And then get ready to crochet on, and we'll do the next row together. This is the final row. We're going to push that stuffing down out of our way. Actually, let's add our marker. And get ready to crochet on. Now push that stuffing down out of the way, and then we're going to squeeze the body together. In this row, we're going to put 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then crochet 2 together. Repeat all the way around. When you land on the marker, you should be crocheting 2 stitches together. So 1 in the first. Keep that body together. 1 in the second. And now crochet 2 stitches together. Now repeating that sequence, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and crochet 2 together. Repeating that again, 1 single crochet in the next 2, and 2 stitches together. There we go, we're all finished row 6, and now we have 9 stitches around. We're going to finish off, but we're going to leave a tail, a longer tail this time, because we're going to use it to close up the gap and also to sew the body and the head together. This is the yarn tail that we're going to use. So pull that yarn tail through that loop and pull tight. Now we're going to weave in and out of the remaining stitches and just weave through. You can go through both loops, weaving in and out. In and out, all the way around to where you started. Now we're going to stuff more into the body. Alright guys, so we have to talk about how fat we make our bellies. If you're using Red Heart comfort yarn like I am, certain colors will allow for a lot more give. I don't know why that is, but that's the way it is. Certain colors. So this color that I'm using actually will fatten right up. The more I stuff in there, it will eat up a lot of stuffing. It'll get fatter and fatter and fatter. Pretty soon, I'm not going to be able to fit into my honey pot here. So I just want you to keep that in mind if you're making your bear for your honey pot, and if you're using Red Heart comfort yarn, then you just got to be aware of that. So he is going to get legs that are going to act like stoppers. I'm just going to show you how it fits in here. So you can see he just fits around. See how fat his belly is? He's a fat little Pooh Bear. And his legs stop him right at the bottom there. So just keep that in mind. this guy is just barely going to fit in there. So I think I'm going to stop the stuffing right here. And of course, you also can stretch this out, right? Because yarn has give to it. Acrylic yarn anyway. It has quite a bit of give to it. So it's like he went on a diet all of a sudden. It fits in there quite easy. Okay, so now I'm going to close this up. Now that I know that's as fat as I want to get him. And I'm going to knot off to hold that closed. I'm just going to pick a piece of yarn there, pull that through, go through that loop, and then pull tight. Okay guys, and like I said, this yarn tail here is going to sew the head and body together when we're ready to do that. So we're just going to set these aside, and we're going to make the arms and the legs first, assemble the body, and then we'll sew that head and body together. This is the leg, and this is the arm. The only difference between these two is the size. And the only difference is a single crochet between the two. I'll show you what I mean. We're looking at the written pattern, and if you're making the Pooh Bear, then of course you're using yellow for both the arms and the legs. And this is the bottom of the arm before the sleeve gets attached. So the legs, row 1 is a loop with 7 single crochets, and the arms, row 1, is a loop with 6 single crochets. So it's almost the same, just 1 single crochet difference. And then rows 2 to 4, 1 single crochet in each stitch for 3 rows. Rows 2 to 4, 1 single crochet in each stitch for 3 rows. So they're almost identical, the only difference is 1 stitch. So let's do the legs together, and then you can use this part of the tutorial for the arms as well. So again, I'm going to make my loop. This one is going to have 7 single crochets in it. And if you're making your arms, then you'd only put 6. So I'm going to put 7 single crochets into this ring. There's my ring with 7 single crochets. I'm going to close it up. Just going to give it a little bit of a wiggle, get it to loosen up a little bit, and then close up that center gap. Now rows 2 to 4 is 1 single crochet in each one of those 7 stitches for 3 rows. So let's do the first row together, and if you were doing the arms, then you'd be doing 1 single crochet in each of those 6 stitches. There was 1 in the first, 1 in the second, 1 in the third, 4th, that was number 5, number 6, and you can see it's folding up on itself. We just have to get into 1 more, and we can actually pull this back to make it more visible, and there's number 7 there. 1 in the 7th. That was the end of row 2. Now we're going to stop and we're going to flip it right side, and you'll be doing the same thing if you're making the arms. They do tend to go inside out with the second row. And the starting yarn tail I'm just going to cut up a little bit shorter, and I can tuck that into the leg as I get further into the pattern. If you're easily distracted, then a marker is a good idea. So 1 single crochet in each one of those 7 stitches for 2 more rows. Just remember that you want to get into the next stitch. Don't go back into the same one you were just working in. These smaller rounds, it's easy to skip over stitches and also to go in the same stitch that you've been working in. So just turn it towards you and look for the V, and take your time, there's no rush. There we go, just made it to the end of row 4, and now I'm going to slip stitch the next stitch, and this is the same thing you do if you're making the arms. Slip stitch the next stitch, go through, pull the yarn through. Instead of yarning over, just pull the first loop through the second, and now finish off. The leg you want to finish off with a yarn tail that we're going to use for sewing. The arm doesn't need a yarn tail. So when you break free from the arm, you'll just be tucking the yarn tail into the arm. And for the legs, you don't really need stuffing. I just put a little tiny bit in there just to maintain that shape. Just a tiny little bit. And the arms don't get stuffed. And if the bottom of the row looks wonky to you, you can straighten those out. Just use your needle to do that. So I would just go underneath that and pull. See how it's dipping down here? So I'm going to go underneath it and then pull up. That's the bottom of the feet. So I don't want it to look wonky. I want them to look straight up and down. So I just straighten them out. This one looks pretty good. So here's my arm with the sleeve attached, and here's my second arm about to do. The finishing yarn tail, I'm actually going to reach up there with my hook and I'm going to pull it down. I could have pushed it down with my stuffing stick, but I'll just pull it out here. Pull it all the way through, and I'm going to pull on it, shrink up that arm a little bit, and then cut. And now that yarn tail is taken care of. Alright, so we have 6 stitches around, and where we finished off, we did a slip stitch. So just look for that area there. We are going to go right underneath that last stitch, that slip stitch. Go right underneath there. Pull the yarn through. This is the sleeve color that you're using. Pull it through. Hang on to the shorter yarn tail with your fingers so it doesn't pull through. Get ready to crochet on. Switch fingers, and now chain 1. That chain 1 counts as the first stitch. Into the second stitch, put 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and now put a single crochet in the remaining 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's the end of the first row of the sleeve. I'm just going to cut free from that starting yarn tail. I'll push the remainder down into the arm. There we go. That was the end of the first row of the sleeve. And here's our chain 1 right down here. It's dipping down. So we're going to get into that first one. We're going to put a single crochet in each of those 7 stitches. We now have 7 stitches around because we put 2 single crochets in one of those stitches. So I am going to get my hook through that first one. That's that chain we made. Remember, those chains are a little bit tricky to get into. There we go. And there's 1. Getting into the second stitch now. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and last one, 7. Now I'm going to slip stitch the next one and finish off. I'm going to go through, pull the yarn through. Instead of yarning over, just pull the first slip through the second. Now I'm going to finish off. I'm going to leave a tail for sewing. This is the yarn tail I'm going to use to sew the sleeve and the arm to the body. And again, look at the bottom and see, what do they look like? Are they a little bit wonky? And if they are, straighten them out. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to sew the legs on first. And you can see they're sewn on either side, so there's quite a bit of space between. And remember when I said, look for the place where you finished off. This is where I finished off the shirt. I want that to be the back of the body, so there's no uneven parts in the front of the bear. So we're going to be sewing in between the 4th and 5th row. 1, so you count the rings, and I'm talking about the body part. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're sewing right in between 4 and 5. So you can pin this in place, or you can just hold it in place. It's up to you, whatever you find easiest. And relax, don't hold everything so tight, just let your yarn needle do the work. I'm going to bring my yarn needle right in between the 4th and 5th row, and I'm going to just bring it through and pull that leg up into place, and I'm going to spin it until it's sitting on the side. I'm going to go back in the same stitch hole I just came out of. I'm going to come up in between that 4th and 5th row. Okay, now I'm sitting there in between the 4th and 5th row. Now I just want to put the leg up there, see where it's going to be sitting. Now I'm going to bring my yarn needle through that stitch underneath from the inside. And you can do this however you want to. Okay, and then pull it. Now I'm going to go back in between the 4th and 5th row and come out anywhere where it's comfortable. Just bring that yarn needle through, pulling gently. Now I want to put a stitch right here, go back through, coming out in between the 4th and 5th row again, pulling gently. I can come on the outside of the leg, going right underneath that stitch and into the body, and out. So that's pretty much sewn in on the outside, and I'm going to do the inside. I can come up at the same time going through the leg, or if it's easier, just bring the needle through and then bring the needle through inside the leg. And just test it, make sure it's sitting right. Now I'm going to go in and out. And I'm just going gently, just pulling things into place. Now I need another stitch right here. I can come on the outside or the inside, whatever feels most comfortable. Now I'm going in between there, just catching the stitch on top, going into the body, inside the leg, and then out. Now I'll need one right here, and I'm almost done. And I am done. I'll go back into the body one more time and I'll just bring it out anywhere where it's comfortable. And pull. And you notice I'm just pulling gently, just snug enough to bring everything into place. And there, my legs are sewn in. And I'm just going to check and make sure I'm happy with how it looks. There's a little part here I'm not totally happy with, so I'm just going to go over and just see if I can fix that. I'm going to wrap over, into the body, and out anywhere. That looks better. Now I want to do this side here. Alright guys, I think it's going to be easier to sew the head on first before we put the arms on, so you'll know exactly where to put those arms. So I've already brought it up through the center hole there. When I first filmed this tutorial, I sewed on the head a different way than I show in this one here, and it does change the look just a little bit. The first one, this guy here, I took the yarn tail from the bottom of the body and I went through the body, up through the neck, top of the head, back down, and did that 2 or 3 times, and that's what's holding this head on. And when you do it that way, you have to pull up any stitches that get pulled down here as you're sewing, because when you pull on it, of course, it's going to pull the top of the head down. So that's how I sewed this guy on, and he can move side to side, and that's perfect for me because I don't have any small children that would be trying to rip his head off or anything, so he's totally fine the way he is. But if you want your little bear to be played with, then I'm going to show you the alternate way of sewing it on, and then we're going to add a collar after, because it does raise the head off the body just slightly, like so. And yeah, a slightly different look, and you can't really turn his head as much as this guy here. So I'll leave the options to you. I will remove the clip that I showed sewing this one in because it will just take up too much time, and that's all I did was just bring it up through, wrapped around inside like that 2 or 3 times, and then I knotted it off down here. We can do this one here, and I'm going to show you how to do that in the next clip. So I brought the yarn tail up to the top and I've knotted it off right here. I'm going to bring the other end through here, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in between the 5th and 6th row. And I'm going to do a few stitches from the neck to the body, and again we want to make sure that where we finished off the shirt is in the back. We don't want any uneven parts in the front of the tummy. Okay, and I'm going to bring my yarn needle right underneath there and through the other side. And then I'm going to do it one more time here. And I'm going to pull tight. Bring that head and neck together. Okay, now I'm going to have to do this a few times. Side to side and then front to front. I mean front to back. So there's my side to side. Now I'm going to go front to back. So I'll bring my yarn needle in and go here. Pull it through. Go into the neck of the body and into the back and pull. And then I'm going to do it again, back to front. Now I'm going to bring my needle from the front and in between the back and the side stitch. I'm kind of crisscrossing over. And this is extra strength for the neck. It's never going to come off of here once we're done. Okay, now I'm going to do one more in between the side and the front and crisscross this one going to the back in between the side and the front. Now this neck is really stuck on there. I'm going to bring this yarn tail down to the bottom of the body and pull, and there we go. Now what we're going to do after this is add a collar, but we're going to sew the arms on first. So I'm going to insert that clip and then we'll come back and we'll put the collar on with this bear. So we want to have the bad side. That's the side that we finished off, so there'll be uneven parts. That part's going to be sewn towards the body. And when we bring our needle in, we're going to be going in between, this is row 1 and 2. So in between row 1 and 2, and I'm going to bring my needle in between those two rows and bring it out the back. And just pull that into place. And now I want to sew the top of this arm to the body. So it looks like this when I'm done. So I'll go back in and I'll come up in between row 1 and 2 of the body, wrap over the arm, and back in and out. Now I'll go back in, coming out in between row 1 and 2 of the body, bring it through, wrap over the top of the arm, and back into the body. See how it's pulling it in? And now, because I've sewn it that way, the arm wants to stick out here. So to get it to tack down to the body, what I do, oh, I went too low there. I'm going to come back right behind the arm at the bottom, and I'm going to go through the arm over to the other side, pull it through. I'm going to bring my needle right beside the arm and out to the back of the body and pull. And that'll just tack the arm down instead of it flaring out. Okay, once you're done, we're just going to knot off back here. Bring it out anywhere. And pull on it slightly and cut. Okay, now we're going to add a collar, and we're going to be using the same yarn that we used to make the shirt with. And we're going to cover up this little part here. And the number of chains for you might be a little bit different. I'm going to chain 11. And the starting yarn tail is going to be long enough to work into the body. So I just made my slip knot and the yarn over it and pull through 11 times. And that's it. I'm going to break free. Now I'm going to thread one of these. Of course you want the sewing in the back, and this just fits around the neck like so. We only need the stitches in the back to hold it in place. We don't need to stitch through it or anything. And you just want the chain to touch. You don't want them to overlap. So I'm going to bring this through and down. If it's too tight and it looks like he's choking, just reach in there and pull the chain away from the neck. And once you're happy with how it looks, then you can just knot off and then carry these away and cut them free. So So there we go, he's all done, sewn together, and what a fat little guy this one is. I actually didn't realize how fat he was going to turn out to be. He's pretty chunky. Let's test him out and see if he actually fits in the pot. Seeing that he's such a fat little guy. Oh, and he does. I gotta push him in there. You gotta lose a few grams there, little guy. So probably for this one I would raise the strings on the balloon a little bit. But he fits in there. Now he's ready to take his ride. Alright my friends, that brings us to the end of this video tutorial. By the time this finishes uploading, I'm sure that the Christmas hat and the scarf that goes with it will be up on my blog. And that will be free as well. The video tutorials for these things will take some time, so whenever they're ready will be popping up on your screen. So just check out my blog or keep watching this channel for future uploads in this little Christmas pouch as well. I hope you enjoyed making your little mini bear, and if you did make one of these little guys, I would love to see it. Post pictures on my Facebook page, Amigurumi Freely, or tag me on Instagram. Both those links are in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you super soon.